So we got syntax errors, which we can typically fix right in the IDE. Other runtime errors, which we can fix with the help of error messages by looking at them. Now let's have a look at logical errors, which are a bit harder to find. Let's say in my application here, when we add, then we're getting the user number input here, right? So that's triggering this function. And there, let's say we're not doing that int parsing. We're not converting this to a number. Of course, we're doing it here, but let's say we're not at this point yet. We forgot to add this code. That would be a typical logical error. Everything will work technically, but the app will not behave the way it should because we have a logical error in our code. Because now if I go back and I reload this page, and I go back to the console here, you see if I enter a 5 here, we got this output which we saw and fixed in the last course module, right? Where the text is kind of concatenated instead of being calculated as a number. Now, we got no error message here, so that's hard. So what can we do in such a case? Well, we can get started with some good old console log debugging. We know that the behavior is not correct when I click the plus button, so we could go to that add function here, which is the function getting triggered when we click the plus button. And there we could throw in a console log statement. Now let's console log the entered number here. And let's maybe also console log the current result. And you can console log multiple values here in one and the same console log statement. You can also combine this with some text. For example, here I'll output input. And this will simply print this text next to these values here so that if you have multiple console log statements, you can find this quicker. Okay, so with that added, let's go back, let's reload here, enter 5, hit plus, we see input, then we see 5, and then we see 0. And this doesn't make it super obvious the way it's printed here, but we can see that 5 and 0 look different, right? Even though both should be numbers. The 0 is blue and looks more numberish, if you will. The 5 is black, just like the input text. So if you're really having a closer look here, you can already spot the problem, which of course is that 5 is treated as a string and 0 is treated as a number, and therefore, as you learned, this will be concatenated to a string instead of combined as a number or added as a number. But it's still a bit hard to spot it here, but you can get there with console log debugging. You can also have multiple console log statements in your code to understand the flow of your code. If you're not sure if something is executed in the right order, you could throw in multiple dummy console log statements to see if they are executed in the right order. Now, as I said, we can fix this error here with console log, but we might not be able to spot the problem just yet. In such a case, you can use the Chrome DevTools and there go to the Sources tab, where you essentially find all the files Chrome loaded for displaying this web page. So here you find your HTML file, but then you basically find the same folder structure I have, because that's the folder structure that was loaded for this web page. And you can go into the scripts folder, and there you find the 2 scripts that make up this web page. And here we can go into the app.js file and find the exact same code I wrote here, because that is the code that was loaded by the browser. And now here, you can do something neat. You can place breakpoints.